Yeah, live at Indy Pop Con here with Stefan from Out of Continues, a podcast that is actually going to be broadcasting live here at the convention. So can you tell us a little bit about your podcast?
Okay, my podcast is Out of Continues. It is a video game related podcast. I started up September of 2011, so that's close to 3 years now. Basically, I'm the founder and the host of the show, and basically do all the work. Except, I have some friends who help out here and there. Like one of my friends does the social media for me, just so I have one less thing on my hands. But other than that, it's basically me on the show each week with different guest hosts. Usually the same ones come every few weeks, like once a month or so. Like I have my brother Ali. He's a regular guest on there that comes like at least once a month. But we talk about what we've been playing. We talk about news, like what's been going on in the game industry, crazy things between developers being said on Twitter, whatever happens on the news, and we share opinions on that, big announcements and all that. We try to focus more on our opinion on the big announcement rather than being a news source, because we're not trying to compete with like IGN and GameSpot. That's not what we're trying to do.
You're just wanting to get your thought on the subject.
Yeah, it's basically me giving my 2 cents on all these things happening. And we also talk about different game-related topics, like whether it's something retro, like our favorite SNES games, or, whatever. It depends on the week. If we have nothing to talk about, that's relevant that week, we might talk about something retro.
Oh, well, it sounds like a very well-rounded podcast, actually.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds like you cover, everything. What are some of the favorite games that you guys talk about on this podcast, though?
Some of the favorite games I'll talk about on the podcast.
The ones that everyone just loves to talk about.
Well, it seems that one thing I talk about regularly is the Wii U, because of how poorly,
the giant flop.
Yeah, how poorly it's doing. It's not that I love talking about it. It's just it
gets brought up.
I can't help but talk about it because I grew up on NES and SNES, and Nintendo was awesome at one point, and now it's like, what are you doing? I'm no businessman, but like, it's just I can't understand why they make all these choices. So I just happen to bring up that topic a lot and talk about that a lot.
Well, also, you guys are, like I mentioned earlier, going to be doing a live broadcast here from the convention. Is that something you've done before, or is this a whole new boss fight?
This is something completely new. I've never done, like, live in front of any audience before. The closest thing I've done to a live podcast was when I first started. I've done, like, 2 or 3 podcasts over TeamSpeak, because I used to regular an online community called FUG, which is a TF2 community. That's FUG. Okay, I want to clarify that.
I'm pretty sure the listeners, would totally understand.
Yeah, and I used to regularly at that community because I loved TF2 at the time. Got tired of it eventually because of all the crazy updates that they've been doing. It got out of hand, but because I was a regular at this community, I decided, hey, how about I get the community in on this and just do a live podcast where it's me and 1 or 2 other people, and everyone else is on mute, and they can basically, type in the chat and all that. And at this point, it wasn't really like Twitch was around, but wasn't as big as it is now. So It wasn't like live stream where live streamers have a podcast and gets their Twitch feedback. But maybe that might be something I'll do in the future. At this point, like I mentioned, this is the first time I'm doing a live podcast like this, and recently I started doing video podcasts as well.
So they can watch you while
yes.
you goof off.
So if they really want to see some guys sit at a table and talk,
some people do like that.
Yeah.
So, I mean...
Sometimes I'll screen share, I'll show what's on my screen and, like, talk about the image we're looking at, like, for example, this past, 2 weeks ago, we were talking about the Far Cry 4 box art because that's all we got for Far Cry 4 for the announcement. So I just share screened that, and we started talking about how the guy looks like Julian Assange.
Interesting. Well, besides doing your podcast, you actually mentioned to me that you help on games. Beware the Bully, and I think your page said something about you worked on Return of Etheria?
Yes.
I think I said that right.
Yes, that was correct.
Let's go with Beware the Bully first, because that one, it sounds like fun.
Okay, so I'm an aspiring game designer. I just recently graduated from Indiana University, Purdue University, Indianapolis, with my Bachelor's of Science in Media Arts and Science. And for my senior project, we call it a capstone project, I decided to make a game, and it's basically me and 2 other people worked on this game. I had one friend do the art, another friend did the music, and I did basically everything else. With the help of my 3 mentors. I was lucky enough to get all these mentors and talented people to work with me. 2 of my mentors are mentors from the school, and the 3rd mentor is my professional mentor. She is Michelle Pun. She works at Zynga. She's a senior game designer.
Cool. So what's the idea behind Beware the Bully? What's the objective? What are you playing for?
Basically, I got the idea of Beware the Bully from a game called Popo EO. Are you familiar with this game? Ever heard of it?
I don't think I've ever actually heard of that.
Okay, it's on PSN and on Steam. Basically, this game, it's a very serious game, though. It's about the game designer who made this game. He had a rough childhood. His father was an alcoholic and sometimes beat his family, so he's a very abusive father. And this game, Popo EO, is about a child who escapes into his imagination, and there's this big monster, and sometimes the monster will play with them, sometimes the monster is just lazy and will sleep and you bounce on his big belly, and then sometimes the monster will get angry and catch on fire and start beating on the kid. And by the end of that game, the message that you get is that the monster represents the father. And so it was kind of sharing the story of
how he grew up.
Yeah, this abusive father. Luckily, my father, was not abusive.
But the game itself was your inspiration.
Yeah, that was my inspiration, and I was bullied as a kid. So,
well, come on, we all were. We're nerds. Yeah. It happens.
Yeah, so I decided I wanted to make a game with a positive message as well. So I decided to use anti-bullying for my message, and I also wanted to keep with a non-violent theme. So there are no enemies that you like jump on their head and stomp on them. The only enemy in the entire game is the bully.
And you run away from him.
Yes. So I'm implementing the story into the gameplay by you're either being chased by the bully and you have to escape him, or you are saving friends, and as you save each friend, you gain a new ability. And they mentioned that you're very courageous and that you're very confident. So by the end of the game, you have like all these abilities. You save these friends, and you stand up to the bully because you're confident, you have courage, you have friends, and once you stand up to the bully, these friends, they're like, hey, look at our friend, he's very brave, we should be brave too. So they stand up to the bully too and chase him off.
Well, it sounds like a very good message, especially with the way kids are being treated in schools these days. Social media has made bullying just explosive. Mm-hmm. It's not just in school anymore. So it sounds like a game that a lot of kids could probably use. Mm-hmm. Your work on Return of Etheria.
Yes.
I think I read something that it was put together by 30 college students.